Good morning and welcome to Counterpoints. Emily, it's our first show since Thanksgiving. I hope it was a good one. We've missed a lot since then.
Yeah, the news just doesn't stop.
Yeah, apparently not.
We thought it would get better when the election was over, but
no,
you can never get off this ride.
No chance. So, I mean, today obviously we're gonna start by talking about the really pitiful attempt at a coup over in South Korea, where the Prime Minister himself tried to coup his own government with the military, but didn't have the military behind him. And we'll talk about how well that worked out.
Yeah,
not well.
We've got some video footage. There's all kinds of good stuff. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah, you thought January 6th was pathetic? Like, wait till you see this one.
I don't know how many people thought January 6th was pathetic.
Really stood up, yeah. I mean, it was pathetic in the sense that what were those January 6th people thinking they were going to accomplish if they took over the Capitol?
Right.
Like, you think if you get the gavel, you've beaten the final boss and now you're the speaker?
Yeah.
Like, that's not actually how it works.
Yeah.
Like, this is not like 1789 in Paris or something.
Thank God. We'll also be talking about Jon Stewart laying into Democrats over their handling of the sweeping Hunter Biden pardon. So we've got some video of that, and breaking news actually that Pete Hegseth is actually being considered being considered to be replaced.
Yeah,
yes. Being unconsidered. Donald Trump is considering replacing Pete Hegseth, his nominee, to head up the Pentagon with none other than Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. That's a report in the Wall Street Journal that has, since just in the last 12 hours, been confirmed by others.
DeSanctimonious is qualified because he served in the torture chambers in Guantanamo.
He did do that.
Right.
So we'll get into all of that because the story is fluid and moving quickly. There's also a major Supreme Court oral argument hearing today over the transgender treatment for minors ban in Tennessee. So there's all kinds of interesting stuff that we can talk about when it comes to that. And we have Ben Wickler, who's running for DNC chair, making a very powerful effort to head up the DNC, the head of the Wisconsin Democratic Party. He's going to be joining us. Yeah,
and he's he may be the front runner. Ken Martin of Minnesota might be the front runner for chair at this point. It's not entirely clear. What's wild is Ben Wickler, who comes from the kind of progressive-ish wing of the party, Move On, that sort of world, just got the endorsement of Third Way, the centrist organization, which says a lot of interesting things about where the party is now. Also, at DropSite, my colleague Jessica Burbank interviewed Dan Osborne, the independent Nebraska Senate candidate, and we're going to exclusively run that entire interview here. Jessica lives in Iowa, so just drove over to Nebraska and sat down with him. It's a really, really fascinating kind of window into how a working person reflects back on a Senate campaign in which he faced millions and millions of dollars in negative ads and ended up losing 53-47 and outperforming every other Democrat in the country, except for he was tied with Jon Tester for overperformance. And Jon Tester, Montana senator, three times elected. So in other words, running as an independent who has a genuine working class story to tell is as good for your kind of brand as serving for 18 years as a populist kind of in Montana. Jon Tester's he's a farmer. He's lost his finger in a combine. He's got that whole flat top thing going on. Yeah. So it works for him until it didn't, and Montana got too red.
Yeah, that had Mitch McConnell rattled for sure. That race had Mitch McConnell rattled. Yeah. So excited to see the interview. Ryan, you had a fantastic report at DropSite this week. I mean, it was like riveting, and we're going to break some of it down here.
Yeah, it's our first collaboration that we did at DropSite with 3 other independent media outlets in Europe, looking into this giant of investigative journalism that was instrumental in doing a lot of the investigations you've heard of, like the Panama Papers, the Pandora Papers, a lot of these investigations into oligarchs around the world. What we collectively can reveal now for the first time is that the primary funder of this organization is none other than the United States State Department. And so we're going to get into that. One other thing I wanted to flag before I start the show: on 2 days from now, we'll mark the 1-year anniversary since Israel assassinated Palestinian poet Refaat Al-Arir. After his assassination, his poem, "If I Must Die, Let It Be a Tale," became this absolute global sensation. It's a poignant poem that is addressed to his daughter, basically asking her to carry on hope for him and for the world. His daughter was then killed in April. Next week, on Tuesday, there's a book called If I Must Die, which is Refaat Al-Arir's posthumously published book of prose and poems. And what we are going to try to do, and this is where you come in. We have nothing to do with the publication of this book. It's by OR Books. But what we're going to do is we're going to try to turn this into a bestseller as a small measure of, if not justice, at least a tiny bit of revenge, to let people know that the world is still watching, that the world has not forgotten about the Palestinian people, and also that the world has not forgotten about the assassins of Refaat Al-Arir and his family. It's also an incredible book. It's one you're going to want to own. I would say do not order it yet. It comes out on December 10th, so order it on that day. We'll put a link down in the notes or in the comments where you can like sign up to get a reminder to order it on Tuesday. Because if everybody orders it on Tuesday, that will fuel the algorithm and push it to the very top. And I think we can do it. You only have to sell 5,000 or 10,000 books in a day to hit basically #1 on the list.
Right.
So it's possible.
Definitely
it can be
possible.
done, and it should be done for Refaat's book.
It's definitely possible. Yeah, that was an amazing poem.
It's extraordinary. Just go Google that poem. As you read the poem, you will see why we're doing this.
Let's get to South Korea, Ryan.
So over in South Korea, over the last couple of days, we watched a farcical attempt at a military coup without the real support of the military unfold as President Yoon Suk-yeol, and we can roll this here, on Monday night, South Korea time, declared martial law. This is a man with about a 10% approval rating, and accused his opponents of being North Korean communist sympathizers who were harassing him by impeaching and his cabinet officials by investigating him. By the way, here this turns out to be a South Korean reporter here, the one who wait, where is she? Anyway,
if you're watching this,
yeah.
there's a woman who grabs a gun. And
There
if you're
she is.
listening
There
to
she
it,
is.
you're seeing it. If you're listening, what we're watching right now is a woman grabbing a gun from a soldier. She turns out, as Ryan was just about to say, to be a reporter, right?
Then there's the soldier pointing the weapon right at her. She doesn't back down at all, which was a metaphor for kind of the civil society response from the South Korean people to this declaration of martial law. You had some soldiers basically storming the Capitol. And we put up the next element here. Kind of storming the parliament to try to take it over, to try to block the parliament from overturning martial law, because the Constitution says that if parliament votes against the martial law, then it's lifted. So the marshals were trying to keep the law from getting into the place where they could cast the vote. There's this great viral video of the leader of the opposition scaling a wall. We can put the next element up here. Scaling a wall to get in. They ended up voting, I think 190 to 0 or something to lift it. At one point, you had soldiers trying to get in, and they were beaten back by reporters and kind of staffers and lawmakers who wielded a fire extinguisher, sprayed the soldiers with a fire extinguisher, and otherwise just kind of used their camera flashes in their faces. You can put up this next element here. I believe this is the one, where South Korea's parliament votes 190 to 0 to lift the martial law. After that vote, Yoon finally capitulated, and he went on early in the morning and said, "Look, it's too early to get a quorum, but I promise once I finally get a quorum, I will lift the martial law and will return things to where they were." I think if you want a good rundown on kind of the history of what led up to this, and also the details of how this went down, we'll have a story later today up over at Dropsite News. You can check that out. Emily, the Biden administration is claiming that it was caught off guard by this.
That he did not tell them.
That he didn't tell them they were going to do this, and that apparently the intelligence community whose job it is to know that these kinds of things are going to happen when done by your top ally, apparently also didn't know. They also claimed some ignorance about the seizure of Aleppo, which people have been like, how are you ignorant about that? These are your guys seizing Aleppo.
Maybe because our president is sleeping through the day, presumably.
Yeah, so the best case scenario for the United States here is that they were caught completely off guard. Worst case scenario was that they were okay with this and thought they could pull it off. Some background here, which I think is unlikely because it was such a comical, farcical, pathetic attempt at a coup. So the background here is that Yoon is a very, very tight ally of the United States and has given the United States the thing in one person that they have wanted in South Korea for a while now, which is not just somebody who's willing to go after labor unions, which that is the U.S. interest in South Korea, to crack down on labor unions because we want cheap exports out of South Korea, but also that they will make a tight alliance with their former colonizer, Japan, and form a bulwark against China. Like that is our thing.
And North Korea.
And North Korea, because North Korea
An
is
emerging
seen as a
nuclear
proxy
power.
for China. Yeah.
Right.
And so that there could be nothing less popular kind of in South Korea to do than to create warm and friendly, cozy relations with Japan. And it's not surprising that the president who would do the leader who would do our bidding on that question would also be somebody who's got like a single-digit approval rating.
Well, yeah, and so just if we put A2 on the screen, this is some of the political backdrop here. He was narrowly elected. The president of South Korea was narrowly elected from the conservative, it's called the People Power Party. Their rivals are called the Democratic Party, funny enough, who just had a big victory in the parliamentary elections. And so he's a lame duck, as Politico reports in this piece. And he's accusing the Democrats, members of the Democratic Party, of, quote, sympathizing with Pyongyang and paralyzing the government with anti-state activities. Those anti-state activities obviously targeted him and his party, hampered him and his party. They were arguing over the course of the last couple of weeks over a budget bill that the Democratic Party would not greenlight. Again, he's a lame duck. And so that's the kind of political backdrop of how he ends up declaring martial law in this speech. Biden administration says it doesn't give a heads up. It was not given a heads up, which is shocking given that over the last half a century, this is one of our top recipients of aid. If you look at the last half century of foreign aid from the U.S. to different countries, South Korea
is a leader in that, and I think people don't realize that.
Yeah, it's like top, I would say it's like probably top 5.
Oh, definitely.
Over the course of the last, it's probably a little different in the last 10 years, but over the course of the last 50 years.
Neck and neck.
Huge recipient. And so the fact that they get so much support from the United States, and then the president who has been close to our president doesn't give a heads up before declaring martial law, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying it's a massive slap in the face to the Biden administration, and it leaves the Biden administration looking ridiculous.
Yeah, and we supported a brutal police state and military dictatorship in South Korea up through the late 1980s, and so there are Israel in the region, basically, like they're kind of outpost, and this is just hugely embarrassing. Now, the opposition party is fairly American friendly too, but they're more labor friendly, and so we're annoyed by that because that means we have to pay a little bit more for stuff that comes out of South Korea, and they'll be much less interested in making common military cause with Japan against China.
And they put up, this is A3, the opposition party simply said the declaration is illegal and unconstitutional as it has not at all met actual requirements for emergency martial law declaration that are stipulated in the Constitution and the Martial Law Act. So it wasn't even legit martial law, according to the opposition party here. If you're going to declare martial law, you should do it within the law.
Yeah, and the unions immediately declared a general strike and are saying that they're going to remain on strike until Yoon resigns, and it's really his entire staff is resigning. It's very hard to see how he is still in power even by the end of this week. So CIA should send a transport plane and get their man out of there. Like this, it's a wrap for this.
So on that note, let's roll A5. This is Joe Biden egging on martial law president to sing American Pie at an event last year.
As Bill O'Reilly would say, to play us out.
To play us out. This is A5 and a good illustration of just how friendly this relationship is, and I think maybe what a statement on Joe Biden's his own lame duck president, how exactly lame that lame duck president is. So enjoy.
A long, long time ago. Music used to make me smile.
Well, for Yoon, the music has died. I think we can leave it there, right?
That was the day that the music died. South Korean pie.
Yeah.
There you go.
Shame.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that little musical interlude. It's not often we get to do a musical interlude, so a little treat.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.